boy. Okay, from Top Gun Maverick, we have cinematographer Claudio Miranda. Oh my gosh, that cinematography is incredible, Claudio. Fun fact, I was reading up. Did you really get like a pilot's license for this film?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I wanted to it was a bucket list. I'm only on a putt-putt plane. It's not really powerful, and I flew into this place, Santa Barbara, and I think it's the most complicated airport I ever tried to deal with. It was totally frightening. And after I did my bucket list, I barely passed my test. It was barely anything. I think I failed it one time because I did like a concentrated, crash course, basically, and I did it in 2 weeks, and I have my pilot's license. I have it, So
there you go.
An achievement.
So you put, the thing with Top Gun Maverick, and it's Tom Cruise. He likes doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
So this isn't green screen. That meant you had to get cameras in those planes. Like, talk about that challenge or how you actually made it work so you could get the shots that you needed.
Well, I like getting on a movie early on. I mean, I found that Joe got this movie, and a little bit of a side story to this as well that kind of has a little bit deep meaning for me as well, as I was a gaffer for Tony Scott, the original, and I gaffed 3 movies with him. And so there was a lot for me kind of emotionally to do this movie and make sure I did this right for him. So there was a huge emotional for me kind of connect. So when I found out that when I had this movie, I just knew that I needed to get my homework kind of on really early. So when I knew there would be conversations with the Navy, and they work different than we work, interestingly enough. So I knew I'd need a lot of lead time to get things through red tape, and I was trying to get there. When I heard it was a maybe, I tried to get to the Navy and get conversations about what planes we can use. I spent a lot of time looking at a bunch of F-18s, and I found this really old version of an F-18 that had this very flat spot. And I said, wow, I could probably get a camera on there. And they told me, you'll never get more than 2 cameras. And I said, and I got 6, so. And yeah, those were like, it's interesting how they work. They just work, it's just very interesting how they work. And it's different than how I work, but that's okay. I work in I get excited about certain things, and so I'm going through the plane, I'm saying, what's that for? And I said, that's a video camera. I said, I have that. You could take that out. So I started ripping apart their planes. And the thing is that they really loved, a lot of the people that were there were because of the original Top Gun. And eventually they were all excited to help out as much as they can. And I found that extremely helpful. I was able to do things that you just couldn't even imagine, I turned an aircraft carrier for an over, and I would do another over, and they'd spin the aircraft carrier around again. I mean, I was access to like crazy stuff that you just never imagine. Just all sorts of crazy things. I mean, I had a bunkmate. I had Lewis Pullman was my bunkmate on the aircraft carrier. We lived there for two weeks. You just never think that's going to be your future at all. Anyway.
So,
I went through a bunch of stuff, didn't I? That was like...
it was something. But I know you got your pilot's license,
yeah.
But when they're up there flying, you couldn't get up there. So you had to teach the actors, like, how to kind of work those cameras that you'd put in the planes.
Yeah, so they had a little knee board, which you have as a pilot, and they had their scripts of what they had to do. I had a mock-up, and I had a little light that, told the pilots, because they were also in part of the little buck meeting. And I said, son, I was like 4 o'clock, backlit. We always love backlit. And then to the other side, 8 o'clock. And it was a lot of work, actually, I spent a lot of time scouting, 3D mapping the location to know where they were. I had to guess the f-stop of where to go 5 miles away and focus and everything. I had to get that set. And once they took off, I had to kind of hope everything would be okay on the way back, that they got the lines and they got everything. The light was in the right place. And we did a morning run and we did an evening run. We had 2 jets. Each jet had 6 cameras. And then we had, so that's 12. And then we had 2 mountain crews. We had a jet and a helicopter. And then sometimes we just do a normal scene on the ground while they're up having fun, you know? So, and then we just did normal scenes on the ground. And then we go watch their footage and analyze them and see what they could do better, if they need to do better, needed to run it again. And then we do the evening run. I mean, for me, my goal always is to get things in camera. So with me, I didn't want to do a blue screen or gimbal or volume or anything like that. I feel it connects with the audience. And I think in the first trailer you really saw it when Tom Cruise leaves the aircraft carrier and you feel the drop. And you go, yeah, that's real. And I think you get excited about that. And it's much more excited than I've seen it before on gimbals with screens, because you see people they just float off. They do the back thing, but I don't think they have the back and the drop and everything, just yanking the body to pieces sometimes, that I think you just kind of get. And I think that's what we were after, and I think we got that.
Yeah, you absolutely did. One scene that is so great is when Tom is riding his motorcycle and the plane's taking off and that lighting, that sun, like, talk about capturing that.
Did that 3 times. Yeah. Because it's overcast and like there had to be the perfect light, and I like operating, so it just capturing him with the backlight in the perfect place and the jet actually going through the sun in the right place was all just timing and getting that perfect weather. And we chased it for a couple days and we finally had the perfect one. I mean, that was a little bit of work. Yeah.
And the canyon runs,
Canyon runs are great. I mean, it's interesting because, also when the Navy does their runs, they're doing it at 5,000 feet. So it was a large time we had convincing him that, 100 feet was much more exciting for the movie, because it's pretty boring up there. It's like you travel commercial and you're going 600 miles in the air. It's not that exciting, but if you're at 50 feet, it's pretty exciting, So that's kind of the whole thing of Top Gun. There's a desert run, which is the lowest run, where they got a special pilot too that could fly below 100 feet. And he had special permission to go, I think he said 50, but it felt like 25. And it blew everything to bits, but it was just, and then you see the plane take off and you see the vortexes go off. And sometimes you think that sometimes it looked, there's one run that I thought looked CG, but it's not. It's completely real, and I think it has I think that's the feeling we wanted, There's one scene also that's kind of interesting, is there's the Dark Star scene, which takes off, and the production designer had to build the shack to be able to collapse. The thing is that when it got to the end of the runway, it took off, and the set roof flew off. And there's people in there, and the lamps fell down, and it's in the movie. I thought we'd have to fix it later or do another run, but it's in the movie. You see all the guys, the guards inside cowering as the whole thing took off. Kind of great, The
fun things we're learning tonight. Oh my gosh, Claudio, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you in the panel.
All right,
For a bit,
perfect.
stay put, and we're going to bring up a clip from The Whale.